Close your eyes and let the rhythm of the rivers carry you. Far beyond the noise of today's world, beyond the glow of screens and the weight of thought, there lies a land wrapped in ancient silence. It is the cradle of stories, the womb of time, where memory was first carved into clay and gods first stepped into speech. This is Mesopotamia, the land between rivers, Tigris and Euphrates, two winding threads of water flowing endlessly across the cradle of civilization. Their current does not rush. Tonight, it drifts, slow and gentle, like a lullaby whispered by the earth itself. Let the murmur of these rivers quiet your thoughts. Let your breathing match their gentle pulse. The air is warm, dusted with the scent of soil and incense. Palm trees rustle softly in the breeze. Somewhere in the distance, a reed flute calls to no one and everyone, its notes dissolving into the twilight. You are no longer in your room. You are walking through an open plain of moonlit dust and forgotten dreams. Beneath your feet lies history, layered deep, bones, bricks, seeds, and songs. Above you, a sky heavy with stars, just as it was 5,000 years ago. The same constellations, the same quiet, and just ahead, torchlight flickers along the walls of a ziggurat, a towering temple rising from the flat earth like a mountain carved by human hands. The bricks are warm from the day's sun, but the night has come. The city sleeps, and with it, its gods begin to stir in dream. Here in this land, time is not a line. It is a circle, a breath, a pattern traced again and again in sand and sky. Here, myths are not fantasy. They are truth dressed in poetry. Stories were not written. They were spoken, sung, passed from fire to fire, hand to hand, like sacred flame. You will hear of gods who were rivers, of kings who spoke to the heavens, of cities made of starlight and mud, of tablets pressed with the weight of memory. Let your heart beat slow. Let your mind step softly, like a scribe through a temple at dusk. The walls are covered in symbols. Each one is a whisper from the past. You are entering the first stories humanity ever told, not with ink, but with clay and breath. Before the pyramids, before Rome, before the wheel turned, there were these stories, written in cuneiform, sung beneath the stars, offered to the gods in bowls of oil and grain. The people of this land lived close to the gods. They did not fear them in the way we think. The divine was in the river, the field, the birth of a calf, the break of dawn. Every moment held a spirit. Every silence held a name. You may begin to drift. That's all right. These stories are not in a hurry. They have waited thousands of years to be told again. They will wait a little longer if you sleep. But if you choose to stay, even for a few more breaths, know that you are walking alongside the first poets, the first dreamers, the first kings. You are welcome here. Let the world fall away. Let the clay soften beneath your feet. Let the wind smell like water and time. Let the darkness wrap around you like a linen robe, cool and full of comfort. This is the place where rivers dream, where words were born, where gods and humans met by firelight. And now, as you drift into stillness, listen. The myths are beginning to wake. Before the first temple rose from the soil, before kings etched their names into stone, before even the rivers had names, there was only the deep. Not a void, not emptiness, but a presence, dark, formless, infinite. A gentle, sleeping potential. The Sumerians called it Namu, the primeval sea, the mother of all. She was water and possibility, flowing through nothing, holding within her the seed of everything that would be. From her came the first gods, born not in fire or thunder, but in quiet unfolding. The heavens and the earth did not yet exist. Time had not begun to move. Yet in the depth of Namu, something stirred. Her breath shaped two beings, An and Ki. An, the sky, vast, high, glittering with future stars. Kai, the earth, fertile, low, silent, holding the shape of all life to come. They were lovers, forever entwined, sky pressing close against earth. There was no air, no gap between them, only a sacred union, full of waiting. From their embrace came Enlil, god of wind, air, and breath. He was the one who separated his parents, pushing sky upward and earth downward, creating the space in which life could move. And with that one act, time began. Enlil stood between An and Kai, and with his coming, the world took shape. He was the force of order, the will to define. With his wind, he cleared the fog of formlessness. With his voice, he named the things that were. Underneath it all, the sweet waters of Enki, god of wisdom, crafts, and the deep, began to flow. He lived in the Abzu, the underground ocean, where knowledge curled like sleeping serpents. Enki did not fight or conquer. He dreamed and shaped, guiding creation like a potter shaping clay. Together, the gods began to mold the world. Mountains rose from Kai's skin. Rivers flowed like fingers stretched toward destiny. The sun was lit. The moon set into its path. Stars blinked awake in the vault of An's sky, and in time, the gods created more gods, to carry winds, to guard thresholds, to bless grain and shepherds and homes. But the world was vast, and its tending exhausting. So the gods created humankind, not as rulers, but as servants. They shaped people from clay and divine blood, molded by hand and gifted with the breath of the gods. Humans would bear the burdens of labor, so the gods could rest. But in that clay, there was more than duty. There was spark, intention, memory, the capacity to dream. The humans looked up at the sky and began to wonder. They built temples, made offerings, and told stories not only of the gods, but with them. The world of the Sumerians was not split between sacred and mundane. Everything was divine. The reed by the river, the grain in the jar, the cry of a newborn. Even death was part of the story, not its end. Every god had a home, a temple rising like a mountain from the city center. Each had a symbol, a duty, a tale. They lived in the harmony and conflict, just as people did. They wept, rejoiced, plotted, and forgave. They were close, not distant forces in the sky, but neighbors, ancestors, kings of another world. In their myths, creation was not a single act, but a cycle, forming, breaking, and forming again. The flood would come, kings would rise, cities would fall, but always something would remain. A tablet, a name, a prayer. The Sumerians did not seek eternal life. They sought meaning, a place in the pattern, a word that echoed after silence. In their stories, the universe was not ruled by wrath or randomness, but by balance. Each god had their place. Each force had its time. And so, from the breath of Namu and the embrace of sky and earth, the world came to be. Not as a machine, but as a song. A soft, slow song. One you can still hear if you listen between heartbeats. If you sit quietly, as the Sumerians once did, beside the river at dusk, watching the stars flicker into being. This is where it began. Not in thunder, but in stillness. The first myths were not shouted, they were whispered. And tonight, those whispers return. They were not distant, not veiled behind clouds or sealed in unreachable heavens. The gods of Sumer walked among their people. Not always seen, but always near. They were woven into everything. The glint of sunlight on irrigation water, the weight of wind in barley fields, the hush of twilight before the stars stirred. To live in Sumer was to live among the divine. They had names, not titles of abstraction, but names spoken aloud, chanted in rituals, carved into temple bricks and clay tablets. An, Enlil, Enki, Inanna, Ninhursag, Utu, Nana, Reshkigal. Each name a thread in a tapestry of myth and meaning. An was the first, the High Father, the God of the heavens. He did not speak often, but his silence shaped the sky. He reigned in stillness, watching the world from his celestial throne, not a god of action, but of presence. The sky itself, the expanse that held everything else. Enlil, his son, was wind and command. When he moved, empires trembled. He separated the heavens from the earth, and with that act began the age of gods and humans. Enlil was revered and feared, not cruel, but absolute. His temple in Nippur stood at the center of the world. From there, kings claimed legitimacy. Without Enlil's blessing, no rule could endure. But where Enlil ruled with might, Enki guided with wisdom. Enki, the god of fresh water, secrets, fertility, and cleverness, lived in the Abzu, a hidden ocean beneath the earth. He laughed softly while shaping destiny with his hands. He created life, helped mortals, and found joy in the complexity of things. He was the whisper behind solutions, the gentle voice in the dream. When gods argued, Enki mediated. When humans faltered, Enki forgave. Then there was Inanna, radiant, fierce, and impossible to define. She was love and war, desire and destruction. She stirred hearts and broke walls. Inanna did not sit quietly. She danced in storms, seduced kings, rode lions, and descended into the underworld in search of something deeper than power. Her temples were alive with song and scent, with offerings and longing. She was a goddess of thresholds, between passion and grief, heaven and death, the known and the unknowable. Her twin aspects, bright Inanna and dark Ereshkigal, echoed through the soul of the people. Ninhursag, the great mother, shaped the flesh of life. She formed bodies from clay, breathed into them and gave them purpose. The soil answered to her, and the womb was her temple. Not loud or jealous, but enduring. Like the earth she mirrored. Utu, the sun god, brought justice. He saw everything. From his chariot across the sky, he witnessed truth and lie alike. To the Sumerians, justice was not abstract. It was a light, a heat, a divine gaze that pierced shadows. Nana, the moon, was his twin, slower, gentler, the keeper of time and tides. His phases marked rituals, months, and mysteries. When Nana rose, priests counted days. Lovers spoke softly. Dreams turned silver. And far below, in a realm where the sun never reached, waited Ereshkigal, queen of the underworld. She did not torment. She received. All souls passed through her gates. Her domain was final, but not cruel. She ruled not with fire, but silence. The dead did not return, save for myth, and even then, only briefly. These gods were not perfect. They quarreled. They wept. They made mistakes. They punished the proud and uplifted the humble. Sometimes they were jealous. Sometimes kind. Sometimes terrifying. But always they were alive, with personalities, flaws, emotions, and purpose. They had families, lovers, rivalries. They rode through myth like stars across the sky, constant, yet always in motion. And the people loved them not for their distance, but for their closeness. They offered them food, music, and incense. They prayed for rain, for fertility, for peace after dreams. Every city had its patron deity. In Uruk, Inanna was queen. In Eridu, Enki whispered through wells. In Nippur, Enlil's will was law. To live in a city was to live beneath the eye of a god, not metaphorically, but with real devotion. Temples were not just places of worship, they were homes. The gods were fed, bathed, clothed, entertained. Priests did not merely pray, they served as attendants. Singers lulled statues to sleep. Scribes recorded dreams and omens. Rituals were performed not just for ceremony, but to maintain cosmic order, to remind the gods they were still welcome. And the gods responded in signs, in floods, in the shape of smoke, in the birth of children. The world breathed with their presence. To modern minds, these gods may seem strange, too human, too emotional. But to the Sumerians, this was precisely what made them sacred. They were not unreachable ideals. They were mirrors, magnified, eternal. To know them was to know something about oneself. To walk in their stories was to learn how to live. And tonight, as you lie still, you walk among them. The halls of Enlil shimmer with golden lamps. The gardens of Inanna bloom beneath a violet sky. The waters of Enki curl softly beneath your dreams. You are not separate. You are remembered. A flicker in the long flame of stories. A soul drifting where gods once walked and may walk again. In dreams. You are walking barefoot across warm earth. Beneath your feet, the soil is packed and sun-kissed, baked into hard clay, just like the bricks that rise on either side of you. The air is heavy with the scent of smoke and date palms, of crushed herbs and drying reeds. Somewhere nearby, water moves in channels, carrying the breath of the rivers into the sleeping city. This is Ur, or perhaps Uruk, or Lagash. It doesn't matter. The name is shifting dust. But the spirit is the same. You are in a Sumerian city, one of the first ever built by human hands. The world around you is made not of stone, but of mud brick. Thousands upon thousands of sun-dried blocks, shaped by hand and stacked by will. These are cities of clay and memory, rising from the flat plains like islands of meaning in a sea of dust. And above them, always, the stars. The sky is endless, glittering, familiar. These are the same constellations the ancients watched, prayed to, and patterned their lives around. The same moon that pulled the tides of time. The same planets that whispered omens to the priests in temple courtyards. The Sumerians lived close to the sky, but even closer to the earth. And it was here, in the space between, that their cities bloomed. You pass narrow alleys filled with quiet. Clay walls curve and lean, casting cool shade. Reed mats hang over doorways. A cat slips through a broken pot. In the distance, Laughter echoes, children playing before the lamps are lit. The city is winding, organic, alive. It was not drawn with rulers, but grown like a vine, twisting around water, shrines, courtyards. And at its heart, a temple rises. It is a ziggurat, tiered, massive, like a stairway for the gods. It towers above the city, like a mountain made by hand, its sides painted in faded white and lapis blue, glowing gently in the dusk. This is no cold monument. This is a home, the house of the city's patron deity. In Uruk, the ziggurat belongs to Inanna, queen of heaven. In Ur, it is Nanna, god of the moon. In Eridu, Enki whispers from the depths. Each city is a world in miniature, shaped by its god, guided by its myths. The ziggurat is more than a place of worship. It is a bridge between earth and sky, human and divine. Priests climb its steps not to escape the world, but to draw the sacred downward, to invite the gods into the rhythm of life. Inside the temple's courtyards, silence breathes like incense. There are no statues of power here, only offerings, jars of oil, bowls of grain, incense burners. Everything is ritual. Everything is relationship. Attendants sweep the floor with reverence. Musicians softly pluck harps in corners. Scribes whisper over tablets, recording omens, names, prayers. Nothing is rushed. Time here does not march, it lingers. You notice a wall etched with cuneiform, the language of the gods and kings, pressed into wet clay with a reed stylus. Each mark is deliberate, each word is weight. This is how the Sumerians made thoughts eternal, not by shouting, but by pressing. These tablets are not just records, they are echoes. And the cities themselves, temples, streets, homes, are the clay tablets of civilization, written in brick, read in moonlight. Every city had its own rhythm. Uruk was vast, one of the first great cities, its name echoing in the word Iraq even now. Its walls were mighty, enclosing temples, markets, schools, gardens. Here, Gilgamesh once ruled, half man, half god, searching for meaning. Ur was elegant, a city of priests and astronomers. Here, they charted stars, counted time, and built ziggurats aligned with celestial paths. The great ziggurat of Ur still stands today, battered by centuries but still reaching. Lagash, Eridu, Kish, each was a universe, ruled by kings who claimed divine favor, shaped by artisans, farmers, scribes, and singers. Each city rose and fell, was buried and uncovered but never forgotten. At night, the city quiets. Lamps flicker in windows. The air cools. The sky returns. From a rooftop, you see it all. The maze of homes, the glow of temples, the shimmer of canals reflecting constellations. This is not a ruin. Not yet. This is a city in full bloom. It breathes. It dreams. and you are part of that dream. You hear a hymn being sung to Inanna, soft and slow, echoing through the alleys like mist. A priestess sings of stars woven into the hem of the goddess's gown. A child repeats her name 3 times, like a charm. These cities were not built for armies. They were built for meaning. To be born here was to belong, not just to a family, but to a sacred geography. Your city was your center, your god, your neighbor, your story, inscribed in both sky and soil. So lie back. Let the bricks cradle you. Let the sky speak. You are in a city older than memory, younger than eternity, a place where myth was masonry and time was sun-baked into walls. The stars are watching, just as they watched the builders, the singers, the kings. They remember, and so do you. In the stillness of dawn, before the city stirs, before even the priests rise to greet the stars, a solitary figure stands at the ziggurat's peak. His cloak ripples in the wind. His arms are lifted not in conquest, but in communion. He is not merely a man. He is a king. But in Sumer, a king was never just flesh and crown. He was chosen, not by people, but by the gods. Not for power, but for balance. He was the Lugal, great man, the keeper of cosmic harmony. He did not simply rule. He connected heaven and earth. Long before empires rose, before bronze clashed against bronze, there were kings who bore no swords, only words, prayers, and sacred duty. Their power was not imposed by armies, but bestowed by divine will, inscribed on clay tablets and sung in hymns passed from temple to throne. The Sumerians did not believe kings were divine, but they believed kings could be touched by divinity, that in moments of crisis or destiny, the gods chose one soul to act on their behalf. These kings did not build their legacy with conquest alone. They built it with ritual. To rule meant to serve the gods, the people, the land. You hear their names still whispered in dusty corners of time. Enmerkar, the poet king of Uruk, said to have built the great temple of Inanna with words so powerful they bent the world. It is told that he sent messages across distant lands, forging alliances not with blade but with verse. He spoke of unity, and some say he sought to bring one tongue to all cities. Lugalbanda, swift of foot and blessed by the gods, his tales shimmer with dreamlike wonder. Lost in the mountains, he prayed not for escape, but for wisdom. And he was answered not by armies, but by eagles and spirits who taught him how to walk between worlds. And then came Gilgamesh, the restless one, 2/3 god, 1/3 man, a king, a warrior, a seeker of eternity. He built Uruk's walls, mighty and enduring. He faced monsters, lost his friend, and wandered the earth in grief, and wonder. Gilgamesh was not the perfect king. He was the human king, flawed, proud, haunted. His legend is not one of power, but of awakening. He learned what every king must learn, that even those chosen by gods must one day fall. That glory fades, but story remains. These early rulers did not wear crowns as we know them. They wore symbols, a staff of shepherding, a net for justice, a seal for truth. In temples, their images were carved beside the gods. In hymns, their names followed divine names. In law, their word held sacred weight. They enacted ritual marriages with goddesses, not in vanity, but to renew the bond between earth and heaven. In springtime festivals, they embodied fertility, ensuring the grain would grow and rivers would flow. Their palaces were not only seats of command, but stages for cosmic performance, where priest kings enacted the dance of balance again and again, year after year. Power in Sumer was not eternal. It moved like the rivers. When a king forgot the gods, or failed the land, or broke the sacred balance, his rule crumbled like unfired clay in rain. Cities fell, enemies rose, and the gods turned their faces away. To prevent this, kings consulted omens. They watched the stars. They read the livers of sacrificed animals, not to predict victory, but to ask permission. For in Sumer, even kings were servants of fate. The king was expected to be strong, but not ruthless, wise, but not arrogant, divinely connected, but never above the law. In times of war he led. In times of peace he built. He dug canals, blessed fields, forgave debts, recorded laws, and when he died, he was buried with reverence, wrapped in cloth, laid to rest in tombs carved from earth. Servants and treasures sometimes followed, but what truly endured was his name, etched into clay, sung for generations. For the Sumerians believed a king died twice, once in flesh and once when his name was no longer spoken. Tonight, that death does not come. For as you listen, the kings rise again, not with armies, but with presence. Enmerka speaks in silver syllables. Lugalbanda walks beside a lion. Gilgamesh stands on the city wall, eyes turned to stars, whispering the question that echoes through all time. Must I die too, like all others? And the answer, gentle, ancient, true, is this: yes, but let your story live longer than your breath. Let your walls stand, your words echo, your rituals continue. So rest now in the shadow of those walls. Feel the heartbeat of Uruk beneath your body. Feel the wind that once carried the king's voice to the gods. Feel the silence that follows, not empty, but full. The kings are not gone. They have simply changed form. They are in the bricks, in the water, in the stories that circle like constellations above your sleep. And in your dreams, they walk again, proud, barefoot, crowned in starlight. The stars are dim tonight. They shimmer faintly, like eyes half closed in dream. And beneath them, on the high walls of Uruk, walks a man with a crown of gold and grief in his shadow. He is Gilgamesh, the restless one, 2/3 divine, 1/3 dust, a king not yet wise, a soul not yet still. In his youth, he was unmatched, strong, brilliant, fearless. He ran faster than the river flowed. He lifted stone like it weighed nothing. His voice could command gods, and his gaze unnerved the sky. He built the walls of Uruk, high, mighty, precise. He planted gardens, held festivals, called to the gods from towers of lapis and silver. But his heart was hungry. Power without purpose. Divinity without direction. Gilgamesh, crowned too soon, knew not what to do with his own greatness. And so he tested it against his people, against the gods, against fate itself. To calm him, the gods created a companion. From the wild lands, they shaped Enkidu, a man of fur and freedom, molded from clay and breath and wilderness. At first, he knew only animals and wind, but soon he was tamed. By the voice of a woman, by the warmth of bread, by the music of the city. He and Gilgamesh met not with words, but with battle. They fought, great and terrible. Streets shook, palm trees trembled, and then they laughed and they embraced. And for the first time, the king was no longer alone. Together, they were unstoppable. They hunted monsters. They defied the gods. They felled the great cedar forest guarded by Humbaba, whose breath was fire and gaze was death. They mocked Ishtar, the goddess of love and war, when she demanded Gilgamesh's heart. They slew the bull of heaven, sent as punishment. They were heroes, celebrated in song, crowned in glory. But glory is a coin with two sides, and the gods do not forget. Enkidu fell ill, not from wound but from fate. The gods had chosen. A life must end. He withered, strong limbs fading, laughter quieting, breath slipping into stillness. And Gilgamesh, who had never feared, trembled. He watched his friend die. Not in battle, but in bed. Not with fire, but with silence. And something inside the king shattered. He wandered, left crown and court behind, walked barefoot into wilderness, slept under stars, spoke to rocks, asked the wind, "Why do we die?" He searched for Utnapishtim, the immortal one, the man who survived the great flood, who knew the secret of life beyond death. Mountains would not stop him. Deserts would not stop him. Even the gods, watching, grew quiet. He found him at the edge of the world, an old man silent with eyes like deep water. And the question fell from Gilgamesh's lips like a stone. How can I live forever? But the answer was not what he sought. There is no way, said Utnapishtim, no path for men, even kings, to escape the closing hand of time. He told the story of the flood, how the gods once washed the world clean and spared him as a memory. He offered a test to stay awake 7 days. Gilgamesh failed. He gave him a plant, secret, sacred, to restore youth. But it was stolen by a serpent as the king slept in a pool of cool water. And so, Gilgamesh returned, empty-handed, but changed. He stood once more upon the walls of Uruk. He looked at what he had built, the bricks, the gates, the gardens, and for the first time, he saw not power, but legacy, not command, but care. He understood what no warrior, no god, no scribe had taught. We do not live forever, but what we build, what we love, what we give, may. His story, sung by temple singers pressed into clay, lived on. And now, as you lie still, you feel the echo of his feet on stone. You hear his voice, not shouting but soft, asking, what is the purpose of strength if not to protect? What is the worth of life if not shared? What is the end if not a beginning again? The restless soul found rest, not in immortality, but in meaning. And you, drifting in quiet, are part of that meaning. His journey becomes your own. The fear, the grief, the growth. You walk beside him, not as a king, not as a god, but as a seeker. And in your dreams, you understand. Imagine a hand, worn, steady, slow. It dips a reed into soft clay, not to paint, not to draw, but to press, to leave marks, to give shape to sound and memory. One stroke, then another. A triangle here, a wedge there. The line curves, a cluster forms. Not random, not decoration. This is writing. Long before ink, long before books, long before paper fluttered in the breeze, there was clay. Clay that held the weight of the world. Clay that dried in sun and lasted millennia. Clay that once was mud beneath someone's feet and became memory beneath someone's hands. The Sumerians called it cuneiform. Wedge-shaped, pressed with a stylus, word by word, not written quickly, not carelessly, but like a prayer, deliberate, sacred, enduring. At first, these symbols were simple. Tallies, quantities, cattle, grain. Trade needed order. Numbers needed form. But soon, words followed. Not just what was counted, but what was felt. Kings began to write laws. Scribes began to record dreams. Priests began to shape hymns. And poets, poets, they began to write stars into stories, gods into lines, and time into silence. Can you hear it now? The whisper of stylus across wet clay. The slow breath of a scribe bent over his tablet. The weight of his work, not for money, not for praise, but because memory matters. In this room, candlelit and cool, he writes, not just for today, but for you, far beyond his own world. He does not know your name, but he writes for you. The Sumerians believed that words held power. To name was to know. To write was to make eternal. A god written is a god remembered. A king written is a king reborn. A dream written is a map through time. And so they wrote, on clay tablets stacked in libraries, in temples guarded by song, in palaces where scribes worked in quiet rows, preserving stories no one would read for centuries, but stories that would not die. In Nippur, there were archives, dozens, hundreds of tablets, each marked and filed. In Ur, they taught students to read and write. Little boys hunched over practice slabs, copying the names of kings and gods again and again, until their hands knew the alphabet of the divine. These tablets, they are still with us. We hold them now in museums, in vaults, in careful hands. We read them with modern eyes and ancient awe. We trace the same signs. We speak the same names. Enmakar, Inanna, Gilgamesh. Still here, still breathing in clay. And what is writing, if not a form of time travel, a voice reaching out across silence, across death, across centuries of dust and war and forgetting, to say, I was here. I saw this. I mattered. And tonight, in your quiet bed, you become the listener, the keeper, the sacred reader. The Sumerians did not write for fame. They wrote to endure. A stone crumbles. A voice fades. But clay, once dry, lasts. Through flood, through fire, through the forgetting of empires. And even now, you are reading it, you are dreaming it. You are part of it. Let your breath slow. Imagine yourself in a scribe's chamber. Walls of tablets, shelves of story, the scent of reed and smoke. You dip your stylus. You press a word, another and another. You are not just recording, you are remembering. So sleep now, knowing that your story too is written in the quiet between thoughts, in the rhythm of your breath, in the soft clay of being. Writing is not just invention, it is invitation. And tonight, the tablet is open and the dream is ready. The wind shifts. It no longer carries only the scent of incense and wheat. Now there is dust and iron and the echo of boots on dry earth. The soft world of city-states and prayer is changing. The gods still whisper, but now they do so through kings who march, through empires that stretch like shadows across the land. Akkad was the first, not just a city, but an idea. That one man could rule not one place, but many. That roads could bind cities like threads in cloth. That loyalty could travel farther than the eye could see. The man was Sargon, born unknown, raised by a river, blessed by Inanna, crowned by his own hand. He rose not through inheritance, but through brilliance, through command, through a vision no one had dared speak aloud. He conquered Sumer, not to destroy it, but to hold it. He left priests in temples, scribes in palaces, but all bowed to Akkad. His soldiers wore bronze. His banners flew in cities that had never known his tongue. And still the gods watched. He claimed Inanna had chosen him, that she marched before his army, her lions roaring in unseen realms. And the people believed. Sargon ruled for decades. His sons ruled after him. His grandsons tried. But time, always time, grinds even the brightest dreams to clay. Akkad withered, its borders faded, its walls cracked. But the idea remained. Others would follow it. Others would rise. And far to the north, in the hills by the river Tigris, a new power stirred. Assyria. If Akkad dreamed, Assyria remembered. Its god was Asher, silent, vast, watching. Its kings were not just rulers, they were weapons. They called themselves kings of the universe. Not in arrogance, but in duty. They believed the world must be ordered, and they were the ones to do it. Their cities were of stone and iron, their palaces covered in carved reliefs, wings, lions, battles, kings kneeling to kings. But they were not only warriors, they were builders, artists, collectors of wisdom. In Nineveh, they built a library, thousands of tablets, myths, laws, spells, maps. Even the epic of Gilgamesh was found there, waiting patiently beneath rubble. The Assyrian kings ruled with fire and ritual. They spoke to the gods with one hand and wielded the sword with the other. They were crowned not in softness, but in flame. To defy them was to defy order. To obey them was to live in the shadow of certainty. They carved their triumphs into stone, not to boast, but to warn. And yet, they too fell, not by sword, but by weight, by time. Empires grow tall, but tall things crack. Asher watched and said nothing. The great kings vanished, their palaces filled with sand, their horses turned to bones, but their stories remained. In broken walls, in shattered gates, in tablets still warm beneath museum glass. And tonight, you walk through those empires, not as a conqueror, not as a subject, but as a dreamer. You touch the carved wing of a lamassu, half man, half beast, guardian of gates. It does not move, but it remembers. You read a cuneiform letter, a king to his god, pleading for rain. You sit by the edge of a ruined road, watching stars fall where banners once flew. What is an empire, if not a prayer carved in stone? What is power, if not belief repeated loud enough to echo? What is memory, if not this? A voice carried across time, a story placed gently in your hands. The empires are dust, but the dust is sacred, and in your sleep, you wear no crown, but you carry the sky. Night falls, but the city does not sleep. There is light here, soft, golden, warm. It glows from behind lattice windows. It flickers atop distant rooftops. It reflects in slow-moving canals like melted stars. This is Babylon, city of wonder, city of sky. It is not a place, it is a dream, built from dust and glory, woven from bricks and longing. You walk through wide streets lined with palms. Walls rise on either side, deep blue, glazed, shining, like twilight itself. On them are lions, dragons, bulls, striding in painted procession. They do not roar, they watch. Above you arches the Ishtar Gate, a portal between earth and heavens where myth and mortar hold hands. Inside, the city pulses, soft flutes, laughter behind silk curtains, the rhythm of sandals on stone. The people of Babylon live not in fear of gods, but in dialogue with them. Here, temples are busy, altars are warm, and the air hums with words. At the heart of the city, something rises. Step by step, brick by brick, into the sky itself. The ziggurat, the tower, it is called Etemenanki, the house where earth and heaven meet. Some say it was the inspiration for the Tower of Babel, the story where humans tried to reach the divine and were answered not with thunder, but with confusion. According to the tale, they spoke one language, one heart. But when they built too high, the gods scattered their tongues like leaves, and suddenly no one understood. But here in Babylon, they still try, not with rebellion, but with reverence. Each brick of the tower is stamped with a name. I am Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Each level climbs closer to the stars, not to take heaven, but to touch it gently. And from heaven, a god watches, not a storm god, not a trickster, not a wanderer, but a builder, a designer, a god of structure and law. His name is Marduk. He did not create with flame. He created with order. He divided the heavens, measured the deep, named the winds, tamed the chaos dragon Tiamat, not with rage, but with purpose. From her body, he shaped the world. From her blood, he made time. Marduk is not worshipped with fear, but with trust. To believe in him is to believe that the world has pattern. That meaning can be found even in silence. In his temple, Esagila, priests study the stars, calculate the calendar, write hymns in praise of balance. The rituals are precise, offerings exact. Each motion is a note in a cosmic symphony. They do not seek miracles, they seek harmony. And in this city, the harmony is not just heard, it is built. Babylon is a marvel of architecture. Its streets are planned, its gardens floating, lush, crowned terraces in the air. Water flows uphill, walls breathe shade. The hanging gardens are not just myth, they are memory of love, of wonder, of a king who built paradise for his queen. And you, walking slowly in this city of night, feel the peace in every corner. Here, people write. Here, they dream. Here, they speak dozens of tongues and still understand one another. The story of Babel warned of ambition, but Babylon shows us aspiration, not to conquer the sky, but to live in rhythm with it, not to speak one language, but to listen with one soul. You lie now beside a canal. The breeze carries music, The moon reflects perfectly in the water until a single ripple sends it dancing. You hear a prayer, not loud, not in your tongue, but you understand it. Because it is not spoken to rule, it is spoken to belong. The tower does not threaten, it welcomes. Its steps are wide, its bricks are warm. Its purpose is not pride, but connection. And in this dream, you ascend, not with fear, but with breath, slow, gentle. You do not climb to escape the world. You climb to remember it. Babylon may fall. All cities do. But for now, it glows. And in your sleep, you walk its streets as if you've always been here. Because perhaps you always have. Somewhere, high above the plains, a single star begins to rise. Not bright, not fast, but certain. The priests of Babylon are watching, not with awe, but with understanding. For in this world, the sky is not mystery. The sky is message. The Sumerians believed that everything speaks. The wind, the flight of a bird, the pattern of oil on water, the glimmer of a star just before dawn. The world is not random. It is a text, written in shadow and light, in grain and flame, in silence and in rhythm. And those who read it do not guess. They listen. You find yourself in a temple chamber, cool, dim. The scent of crushed myrrh drifts softly. Candles flicker beside polished bronze bowls. And on the floor, a tablet. Upon it, wedge by wedge, a record of the sky. How Venus appeared before the moon. How Mars stood still for 3 nights. And beside it, a note. The king will be safe. The river will rise. This is not superstition. This is observation. For centuries, priests have watched the heavens, mapping their rhythms, matching them to events on earth. The rise of kings, the fall of cities, the birth of twins, the turn of the tide. The stars do not control, but they echo. In the heart of the city, another tablet lies. But this one is different. Its top is curved, its edges carved, and at the center, a man stands before a god. This is the code of Hammurabi, a pillar of law, a monument not to power, but to order. Hammurabi was king of Babylon, a ruler of vision and care. He did not conquer only with soldiers. He conquered with justice. His code lists over 280 laws, etched forever in stone. Laws for merchants, midwives, farmers, builders. Laws for marriage, debt, inheritance, and trade. And above them all, the image. Hammurabi, receiving wisdom from Shamash, the god of the sun and of justice. Not creating law, but receiving it. In this world, law is sacred. To build a city, you must first know the stars. To rule a people, you must first read their hearts. And so, king and priest stand side by side, one to guide the body, the other, the soul. The people did not see law as a threat. They saw it as a path, a way to live in harmony with all things. Just as the moon follows the sky, so too should man follow right action. not to avoid punishment, but to live well. You step outside. The sky is vast, silent, clear. A priest draws a chart in the dirt. Another pours oil in a bowl. The surface ripples. A bird cries once overhead. They nod. Something has been seen, and far away, a messenger gallops to the palace. Not to warn, but to inform. Omens are not always dark. They can be soft, hopeful, like dew on a leaf, or a child born during a sunrise. The world speaks with nuance. You must be still to hear it. And the Sumerians, they were still. In the schools, young scribes learn to read both tablet and sky. They copy the names of stars, the lengths of shadows, the meaning of eclipses. They do not rush. They do not assume. Knowledge is not taken. It is earned patiently, gently, like water shaping stone. And so the city breathes in rhythm with the heavens. A birth is noted. A cloud is watched. A harvest is timed by the moon's curve. Even death is read, not as end, but as a return to pattern. Now you lie beneath the opener. A fire crackles near your feet. Above you, the stars wheel slowly. You remember that you are small, but not lost, not forgotten. You are part of the chart, part of the law, part of the rhythm. The stars say, rest. The omens say, peace. The law says, you belong. And so you close your eyes as a scribe gently seals a tablet, and a priest folds his hands at dawn. The world keeps turning. The words keep shining. And you dream. The fire is low now. Only glowing coals remain. Their warmth flickers across the walls like the last memories of a dream. You've traveled far, through temples and towers, through myths and kings, through clay and starlight and silence. Now the world softens, the sky dims, the river calls again. Tigris, Euphrates. Two ancient voices flowing endlessly, carving time into the earth. They do not speak with thunder, they murmur, like memory. And you are beside them, barefoot in the dark, watching the stars ripple across their surface. This is where it began, and this is where it returns. You close your eyes and see the silhouette of a ziggurat in the distance. Its steps are covered in moonlight. Its top touches the sky. Somewhere, a scribe presses the final mark into a tablet. Somewhere, a king breathes his last breath. Somewhere, a god listens and says nothing. And still, the river flows. History here is not made of battles. It is made of quiet, of ritual, of whispers in clay. It is not a roar but a rhythm. A child lighting a lamp. A priest singing to Inanna. A woman offering grain to her ancestors. These are the moments that built empires. Not thunder, not flame, but presence. Now you return, slowly. The dust of Ur is on your skin. The light of Babylon rests in your eyes. The voice of Gilgamesh echoes in your chest. You are not a visitor. You are a vessel. You carry these stories now, not to explain them, but to remember. And as your breath deepens, as your body grows still, as sleep stretches its arms around you like soft linen, you know, the gods still walk, the rivers still sing, the myths still live, not in tablets, but in you. Time does not end here. It fades, like music, like fog, like the last glimmer of firelight before dawn. You are floating, not in water, but in memory. No need to hold on. Let the current carry you. Tonight, the myths have spoken. Tomorrow, the sun will rise, and the stories will wait, as they always have, as they always will. Sleep well, dream gently, and remember, before there were books, there was clay. Before there was history, there was song. And before you close your eyes completely, know this. You were here. You listened. You remembered. And the river moves on.